Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be episode 89 for you guys. Today, this will be a solo episode, just your host only. Of course, this episode will be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into episode 89. Starting off the episode, I will be giving my Super Bowl game summary of last night's historic game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. This was one hell of a game. It was a true classic. Both teams played well enough to win Super Bowl 57 last night. Unfortunately, the game ended based off of a holding play that I do believe that James Bradbury was holding Juju Smith in the red zone yesterday, and unfortunately, that is how the turn of events happened for the game, for the ending of yesterday's thriller game. The Kansas City Chiefs are your new Super Bowl champions. They won that ball game yesterday, 38-35, and a splendid, magnificent ball game that we truly witnessed yesterday in the Super Bowl. I do believe that holding play was the right call. James Bradbury himself did admit to it after the game that he did tug on the back of Juju Smith's jersey, which is a holding play. Whether you guys like it or not, whether the world likes it or not, that is the right call that the NFL had, and that is how the ball game ended, with the Kansas City Chiefs running out the clock. But the game yesterday, like I keep saying, was magnificent. It was great. Patrick Mahomes is truly now the baby GOAT. There is no debate, no discussion of who is the baby GOAT of the NFL at this particular point at the quarterback position. In 5 seasons that Patrick Mahomes has been a starting quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, he has now won 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 MVP awards, 2 Super Bowl MVP awards, played in 3 Super Bowls, being 2-1 in the Super Bowl, having played in 5 straight AFC Championship games, 5 Pro Bowl games. He was selected to the All-Pro team 3 times in his career. Former NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Mahomes to me is now the 4th greatest quarterback in NFL history. Of course, if you guys haven't checked out episode 88, last week's episode, me and the guys went over our top 5 quarterbacks of all time, and I had Patrick Mahomes at 5 on my all-time list, behind Aaron Rodgers, who I currently had 4 of last week. After last night's game and what Patrick Mahomes has truly accomplished, having 2 MVPs, having 2 Super Bowl MVPs, winning his 2nd ring in a matter of 5 years of being an NFL starter, that's historic. No doubt having the best start to an NFL career in NFL history, especially at the quarterback position. I will put him as high as 4 on my all-time list. Now, I will now officially swap him and Aaron Rodgers. I do believe Rodgers is still a top 5 guy of all time, but now Mahomes has surpassed Aaron Rodgers on my all-time list. And yesterday in that Super Bowl game, what we saw, the experience kick in, especially in the second half of that game, was the championship experience that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have shared together over the last 5 years together in Kansas City. The experience was definitely the X factor in the second half of the game in that Super Bowl when the Philadelphia Eagles were up by double digits heading into the start of the 3rd quarter. The experience was definitely the X factor for the Kansas City Chiefs in that second half. And the Philadelphia Eagles defense was exposed in the second half of this ball game. I was very surprised at that. The Kansas City Chiefs as a team, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is going to get their credit, but the whole entire team played nearly flawless in the second half of that Super Bowl game. In the second half, the whole team had committed 0 penalties, 0 turnovers, punted the ball 0 times, allowed 0 sacks, and Patrick Mahomes only had 1 incompletion in the whole entire second half of that Super Bowl. The 1 incompletion that he had was a throwaway pass, and that's just remarkable when you talk about what he had to overcome in the second half of that game, being down double digits, playing on that highly sprained ankle injury. Patrick Mahomes looked like Houdini out there, creating plays magically like we are always accustomed to seeing every time he steps on the field. But back to the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They looked suspicious. They were suspect in that game. They were the true reason why the Philadelphia Eagles lost that Super Bowl yesterday. And the front 7 was supposed to be the X factor in this game, heading into this game. People believe that the front 7 and pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles, which historically one of the best pass rushing teams in NFL history this year, having over 70 sacks in the whole entire season. Did not sack Patrick Mahomes one time in this Super Bowl game. If they were going to have a chance, they were going to have to create sacks. They were going to have to create pressures towards Patrick Mahomes, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, make him try to make plays with his legs, with his highly sprained ankle, which obviously we saw Patrick Mahomes was running for his life like he didn't even have a highly sprained ankle. But the defensive pass rush did not do their job. The front seven failed the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday, and the defense is the reason why they lost that football game. And I said on last week's episode, when we were talking about the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl predictions, I paid KC to win the game, and we talked about how the game would go. I said that the Philadelphia Eagles defense would struggle with Patrick Mahomes and that offense because they're not accustomed to seeing good offenses all year. What did I talk about when Dak Prescott and the Cowboys played the Philadelphia Eagles on Christmas Eve and towards the end of the regular season? Yes, Jalen Hurts did not play in that game, but Jalen Hurts also doesn't play defense. When the guys laughed at me about comparing Dak Prescott lighting up the Philadelphia Eagles defense to Patrick Mahomes doing in the Super Bowl, they thought it was a joke. But in reality, the Philadelphia Eagles have struggled playing against good quarterbacks when they did during the NFL season. So I did my research on this. When they play good offenses, the defense has been suspect all year long. When they play quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, and Jared Goff, I'll throw Jared Goff in there as well, they give up an average of 33 points when they saw those respective offenses and those respective quarterbacks this NFL season. So yes, the defense on paper did look good, but when they played against these good elite offenses, they struggled and they allowed 33 points. And when you talk about, oh, the defense looks so good, and the playoffs, I even talked about it, they didn't play any good quarterbacks. Daniel Jones had no offensive weapons. Joe Johnson was a hazard out there, if you want to be honest, as a fourth-string quarterback. Brock Purdy only played one real possession. The 49ers only got to throw the ball one time in the second half of that NFC Championship game. So the Philadelphia Eagles have been suspect of good offenses all year long. Tried to explain that last week on the podcast, but all jokes aside, I do owe someone an apology that is in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform, and that man is Jalen Hurts. I truly owe Jalen Hurts an apology. At the beginning of the season, him and Tua Tagovailoa were on my players heading into a make it or break it season. And boy, did both of those players prove me wrong, but Jalen Hurts really blew my expectations out the water this season. I truly owe him an apology. He is now officially, for now, he's the best quarterback in the NFC East. I believe he's a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League now, and he truly played his heart and his soul out and left everything on that field in the Super Bowl. He really was the best player on that field yesterday in Arizona in that Super Bowl game. He went 27 for 38 passing, had 304 passing yards, 70 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns. He was the best player on the field, definitely was out-dueling Patrick Mahomes, but it came down to which player was going to have the ball in their hands last, and that was Patrick Mahomes. So Jalen Hurts definitely played well enough to win that game. The defense just let him down, but he does have a bright future. Philadelphia Eagles have definitely found themselves a good quarterback for the sake of their future. But that is my thoughts on the game. I will share my halftime thoughts. The halftime performance by Rihanna was pretty good. She played countless hits, all the countless hits that she's played over the years. But unfortunately, we saw during that halftime performance, as good as the performance was, if you're a music fan that is waiting for Rihanna to have a comeback, waiting for Rihanna to create new music, have a new album release. She has not released an album since 2016, and I don't believe we will be getting one anytime soon, because on the stage she showed that she's pregnant once again, expecting her second child very soon in the calendar year 2023. So if you were expecting Rihanna to have a music comeback, it's not going to happen this year. It might not happen ever, but Rihanna definitely did her thing in the Super Bowl halftime performance. And then, fun fact, viewership-wise, the halftime performance actually pulled in more viewers than the whole entire Super Bowl game did. So kudos to Rihanna, kudos to the people who put together the halftime show. But that is my thoughts on the Super Bowl game summary and the halftime performance of Super Bowl 57.